Welcome! This video will be the last installment of Operation Barbarossa Visualized. I will discuss the Soviet counteroffensive and offer my opinions on this military operation. On December 5th, 1941, the largest operation in military history was officially halted. Temperature during this period of time dropped as low as -45 degrees Celsius or -49 degrees Fahrenheit. German troops were exhausted and freezing. Soviet troops didn't fare much better, but fresh reinforcements from the Siberian front, who were well trained for winter combat, were arriving in massive numbers. Over 18 divisions of men, 1,700 tanks and 1,500 aircraft were readied in early December. The Soviets built a reserve force of 58 divisions. The German High Command assumed that the Soviets were completely drained and expected no more combat action during these winter months. Again, they underestimated Soviet tenacity. The counteroffensive started near Kalinin and would eventually involve the entire Moscow front. On December 7th, the city of Kalinin was liberated and a bulge formed northwest of Moscow, threatening to trap the entire German 3rd Panzer Army. Most German generals agreed that the current front lines could not be held, and they needed to retreat to establish better defenses. Hitler, on the other hand, forbid any sort of retreat. Some German generals ignored Hitler's orders and pulled back anyways to avoid complete destruction. This resulted in the dismissal of many generals, including Walther von Brauchitsch, who was Hitler's commander-in-chief, Fedor von Bock, commander of Army Group Center, along with generals Heinz Guderian, Erik Hauptner, and Adolf Strauss. Hitler's insistence on not retreating would continue until the end of the war and would result in many disastrous losses for Germany. The 3rd Panzer Army barely managed to escape encirclement, but the German retreat opened up German lines for the Soviets to exploit. The Germans were pushed further back but held onto the Reserve salient, which would later be known as the Reserve Meat Grinder. Down in the south, Guderian's 2nd Panzer Army was also almost encircled, but managed to pull back in time. They made a hasty retreat and many German units were destroyed or captured by the advancing Soviet troops. By January 7th, 1942, the first Soviet counteroffensive was halted with sizable gains. The immediate threat to Moscow was eliminated, and for the first time since the beginning of Operation Barbarossa, the Soviets had the initiative. Unfortunately for the Red Army, Stalin would insist on launching additional offensives that were overly ambitious and resulted in massive casualties, which would place the strategic initiative back into the hands of Hitler. Hitler would then order a drive towards the Caucasus, which would climax in the famous Battle of Stalingrad. As for the front lines outside Moscow, it would stay more or less the same until 1943, until the decisive Second Battle of Smolensk would force the Germans to retreat more than 250 kilometers from the Moscow front. So let me offer my thoughts on Operation Barbarossa. I'm just a messenger, not a historian, so take it for what you will. I believe that Operation Barbarossa had virtually no chance of success. Even if Moscow was captured, the Soviets would continue fighting as long as Stalin was in power. Napoleon took Moscow and that did him no good. Soviet industrial capability and manpower are simply too overpowering, and once the Soviets got their shit together, there is little chance of success for the Germans. The only way for the Germans to win was if Stalin was either killed or removed from power, and the Soviet Union came under the control of someone who was willing to surrender to Germany. As long as Stalin was in power, the Soviet Union would have fought to the very last man, just like Germany did. That's it for Operation Barbarossa Visualized. I hope you enjoyed the ride, and if you're looking to learn more about Barbarossa, there are many books out there that examine this operation in far greater detail than I did. As for the future of this channel, I most likely won't be posting more videos since I have other things taking up too much of my time and these videos take way too long to make. I'd like to thank those of you who spoke about supporting this channel. I'm not taking donations, but if you work in real estate and would like to help a newbie, then send me a message through YouTube or email me. Thank you all very much for watching this series, and I wish you all the best of luck in your lives.